The Last Tomato Sandwich. The tomatoes were only there for a season. The friendship lasted a lifetime. Every year around this time, somewhere between the end of July and the first week of August, just as I can feel summer beginning to loosen its grip, a familiar feeling of dread rises from somewhere deep inside me. The realization that tomato season is slipping away begins to weigh heavily on my heart and, just as importantly, on my stomach. For a few brief weeks each year, from about the middle of June until early August, the farmers' markets are filled with heirloom tomatoes. They have a fragrance that grocery store tomatoes can only dream about. Their flesh is almost silky beneath skins that bruise easily and fruit that seems determined to spoil if you don't pay attention. They demand good soil, careful watering, plenty of sunshine, and a little luck. I would not even try to grow one myself. Their shapes are wonderfully imperfect, lumpy, cracked, misshapen. Every one of them looks different, as though nature had no interest whatsoever in symmetry. They don't travel well, which is why you rarely see the real thing in a supermarket. And those tomatoes stacked neatly under fluorescent lights with little signs that say, "Vine ripened." Well, let's not start an argument. When my friend Dudley, who was like a father to me, was in the last chapter of his life, I drove to visit him at his home on the tallest hill in Calhoun County, Mississippi. From his porch, he could look out across the Schooner River bottoms, where the land seemed to roll on forever. At night, he would point out the lights glowing over the forest from Houston, Mississippi, some 20 miles to the southeast. After we talked for a while that day, he looked at me and said, "Willie, make me a tomato sandwich." I gathered the ingredients. Blue Plate mayonnaise. These days, Duke's is my favorite, but Blue Plate will certainly do it. A loaf of round top Wonder Bread, salt, pepper, and the ugliest tomato on the kitchen windowsill, which, of course, was also the best one. As I searched through the drawer for 2 knives, one for spreading the mayonnaise and one for slicing the tomato, Dudley stopped me. "Now, Willie?" "Yes, sir," I said. "I like my tomato peeled." I looked over at him. "Do you think I was raised in a barn? I wouldn't think of leaving a string on your tomato." He laughed. Then, just before I sliced it, he added one more instruction. "And cut the sandwich on an angle." Of course. I made one for him and another for myself. Dudley had been my teacher at a junior college in Mississippi back in the late 1960s. He became my mentor and, over the next 50 years, one of my dearest friends. He was like a grandfather to my children. We sat together at his kitchen table, eating tomato sandwiches and talking about old times. Neither of us said anything about this possibly being the last one. We didn't have to. Sometimes the things we remember most are not the grand occasions of life, but the ordinary afternoons that quietly become the last time. Every summer, when heirloom tomatoes begin disappearing from the farmers' markets, I think about Dudley. I've eaten a lot of tomato sandwiches since then. None of them has tasted quite as good. Maybe it was the tomato. Maybe it was the company. I suspect it was the company. Thanks for being here.